Joining me now here on Locked On Ducks, Brian Smith, our Locked On Recruiting Insider. This segment brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Go to linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Brian Smith is at FBScout_Florida. The football season may be underway. That doesn't mean recruiting just takes a break. Brian might not be as busy with a podcast appearance lineup as he is during the summer, but there's still plenty of things to talk about. Let's hop right into it, Brian. Bradyn Platt is the most recent commitment for the Ducks. That was about 9 days ago. He's another four-star linebacker, the third in the 2024 cycle for the Ducks. What do you see from Bradyn Platt? Ugh, that was messy.
Boom, pow, bang. Those are the things that I see with him. When he hits something, it's a loud collision. He is one of the most powerful built linebackers I can remember in recent recruiting history. He's an old school 1985 downhill middle linebacker playing at SC or Michigan or something like that. But he's able to run and move in a way that he can still play linebacker in this era at 240. That, my friend, is what you're looking for. So I do have a quick request.
Yes.
I know that you don't know Dan Lanning, but you're going to have to get on the phone with him and pass on this request for me.
Okay.
I need to see this young man in short yardage packages in the backfield. I do not care if Dan likes it. It is your job to get that to happen.
Okay. I'll put that on my agenda of items to accomplish as the host of Locked On Ducks here. It's not as if we haven't seen Lanning do it before. Noah Sewell scored a touchdown against Colorado last year, and I assume you bring this up, Brian, because he is a two-way player currently in high school. He is a running back, and it's a running back, right? And he is a linebacker as well. He's going to be a linebacker for the Ducks, but I mean, we have a jumbo package. We've seen it each of the last couple of seasons, and after this year, Terrence Ferguson probably going to go off to the NFL, and you don't know what else will happen in that tight end room. So maybe as a jumbo package, you put him in there as a fullback and say, just run forward and hit the first person that you see, you know?
You could play him at H-back and do some other things with him. This is a very unique athlete. I think he's completely underrated for two reasons. One, do you know where Yale, Washington is? Because I don't. I'm guessing that 99% of the people on planet Earth do not either.
Yeah, I can't say I could point it out on a map, and my parents have lived just north of Seattle for over 7 years now, so I'm not entirely certain. Still, a four-star linebacker is the sort of defensive player that we want to see the Ducks get on the recruiting trail to try to hopefully build a dominant defense that I think should be poised to pop in year 3 under Dan Lanning and company. So it didn't change Oregon's recruiting ranking nationally. They're sitting at 12th in the country right now. Is that just because other schools have picked up commitments because they already had a lot of four-star players? Why didn't this move the needle when you added a blue-chip prospect?
It's just everybody's kind of getting one guy here or there. There's nothing new. The only thing that's really going to change much now is when a 5-star pops. Their number is just that big. I had somebody talking about another school the other day. They said if school X gets this 5-star, some kid was getting ready to commit, they'll move up like 4 spots. All those schools, like between 7 and 15, are real close together. One kid can change your ranking if you get a 5-star kid more than one spot. Oregon has its opportunities coming up, and who knows what's going to happen right before signing day when it's flip season.
Yeah, flip season is usually now right before bowl season, based on where it was last year, which is just a really dumb part of the college football calendar. But, this is a great sport run by below average individuals on the whole. So
that is one of the best statements you've ever made in your life.
Thank you. I am far too proud of it, frankly, and it happens to be true. Last thing on Bradyn Platt before we talk about a couple of 5-stars is he becomes Oregon's third 4-star linebacker committed in the 2024 cycle, along with Kamar Mathudi and Dylan Williams. When you look at Oregon's linebacker unit right now and what it can be going forward, the only guy you could say for certain will be back next year is Devin Jackson. I would suspect Jeffrey Bossa would be back as well. It's still early in the season. We don't know how all these things are going to play out. But do you think Oregon is done at this position group from the high school ranks going into 2024?
The only way I would take another guy is if it's a really special player. The 3 they have already gotten committed, those are guys you're looking for. That's a top 5, top 10 class at the linebacker spot in the country. So you're good. They just didn't take that many last year. So you can't close the door. Maybe you take a JUCO kid or a transfer or something too. That's the other part of that. there's so many possibilities now. I have to look at it from a very broad lens. And what Dan has in store is one thing, and then there's always the kid that randomly enters his name into the transfer portal that changes a coach's mind too. So it's moving parts here, my friend.
As is often the case with recruiting in the college football world. Speaking of which, Oregon's still seeking their first 5-star on any site. We don't have a player who has a 5-star recognition anywhere in, whether it's on 3, 24/7, ESPN, Rivals, wherever you look. Doesn't mean there aren't a lot of good players in the class. But you do want to see Oregon, land these sorts of players, whether it's Mateo or Jurion Dickey, the last couple of years. I mean, Mateo's literally already making an impact on the field. He had a sack against Texas Tech that got called back because Texas Tech committed a penalty, so we accepted the penalty and such. But he was out there a lot, making an impact. Also out there, Tatum Tuioti, Blake Purchase. So we're seeing some true freshmen play for the Ducks with some regularity in high leverage situations here. So when you look at the probability of a 5-star kid doing that, it's usually a lot higher because they have that designation for a reason. Let's talk about Brandon Baker. There was a point in time where it looked like Oregon was in a really, really good spot here. You've come on this show in the past and said that it's basically an NIL game for Brandon Baker. Is that still the case, and where does Oregon sit in that discussion? He's the number 1 offensive tackle in 2024 for those who did not know or perhaps did not remember.
He is a special player. His film, just for the entertainment value, I suggest you go check it out. No matter who you are, what school you root for, he's at Mater Dei, which is obviously a prominent program. They beat a friend of mine, 62-0 recently, and it's a school that's got like 15 kids going to college. And I'm not exaggerating. So they are very good. Texas is the strong leader from everything I've heard, including one of my buddies thinking he's going to Texas, who covers Texas. That's a pretty good sign. Can that change? What's the date? Yeah, it's early September. But right now, barring something unforeseen, he's going to be a Longhorn.
So what would Oregon have to do, you think, to get back into the mix for him?
I think, number one, NIL is part of it. But if you get a kid, I mean, Texas just beat Alabama on the road.
Right.
It's the best win in college football so far and probably going to be the best one this year. I mean, do you really think Georgia?
Here's a good stat for you, Brian. I believe that is the first top 5 road win against a Power 5 opponent. Well, I guess every top 5 team is a Power 5, so that was redundant. But it's the first top 5 road win in college football since Oregon beat Ohio State 2 years ago. I don't think there was a top 5 road win last season.
Yeah, and kids are going to resonate with that. It was the big game. I mean, I get it. And Texas was probably right there for him anyway. If he didn't have a reason to go there anyhow, I mean, their offensive line did pretty good. It's not like they dominated Bama because Bama's physical, but they showed themselves. Oregon's going to have to do something, and I have a point about that here in a minute. But Oregon has a few chances coming up to gain some spotlight on them to flip it around. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to stomp some teams in big games.
Like Colorado, for instance.
That would be the one in particular. When I say stomp, I mean like 48-22 or some random, like Colorado's going for 2 because they're down 4 touchdowns. Like just stomp. I don't know if you're going to keep Colorado to under 30 points with the way Sanders can throw the ball.
Yeah.
But their defense is just not very good. That'd be nice. You should be able to run the ball down their throat. And what do offensive linemen like to do? Run block or pass block? Run block. If you get and Baker's physically ready for that level, you need to go out and show that you can be like Texas and beat the crap out of some teams. And then when Oregon plays SC, a team that I think they're going to beat, when they play Washington, etc., they have to win those games. They got to do it convincingly.
Right.
Oregon's going to have to do it, and they got a quarterback that can hit the big playoff play action too.
Right. When does Baker commit? Is there a timeline on him?
It's coming up in the next week or two. I forget the exact date, but it's coming up pretty quick.
Well, that would need to be 2 weeks if he was going to see the outcome of the Colorado game. So
that's why I could care less about commitment dates, because it's still. You really think he's going to not take Dan's call? Do you really think that? I don't.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for it. You're the expert here, not me. That's why we bring you on the show. Lastly, the other 5-star in Oregon sites, Aiden Breeland, defensive lineman, teammate of Brandon Baker on the other side. I would love to watch those two go at it in practice. That's probably, that's some. It reminds me of that scene in The Blind Side, a movie that now has a little bit of a different feel, pending what happens there and such, when they go best on best and it's Michael Orr against the other, and the coaches are watching. It's just like an O-line Oklahoma drill, and Michael Orr just pancakes him like that sort of hype, where coaches are coming down, getting their hands on their knees and going, all right, what do I see here? And then the kid just absolutely destroys him one way or the other. That's kind of what I envision it's like at practice there. So give us an update on Aiden Breeland, a 5-star interior defensive lineman, a place that Oregon's going to have a lot of turnover after this 2023 season.
Miami, A&M, Oregon, Georgia. I mean, it doesn't get any heavier for teams that really covet D linemen. Allegedly going to go see Georgia. I mean, he doesn't have a date set yet. Not that, again, that I really care, but Oregon's in the mix for the final group. That's all you can ask for at this point. And I want to see the date where Breland says, I'm visiting Eugene. Until I see that date, that makes me nervous when I look at it from Oregon's perspective. These kind of kids that go make the decision at the end, and he'll probably be more of a signing day guy. How many times did you get him on campus past June? I bet you the school that gets him on campus at least once, if not twice.
Brian Smith is at FBScout_Florida, a great follow on Twitter. If you want more recruiting insight, go follow him over there. We always appreciate the time. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.